Good morning, welcome back everybody to the History Veteran UK. Does what it says on the tin. I'd like to say that my hat is jauntily placed on my head, but it's not, it's because my head's wonky. Today I'm back at Manston, which is now, or was, Kent International Airport. Stopped being an air base in 1996. Well, what I want to talk to you about today is the United States Air Force. So the United States Air Force took over Manston in 1950 and they stayed here until 1958. When they first arrived at Manston, it was pretty much a few wooden huts. So they expanded the camp, put in concrete bunkers for ammunition, and as part of the Strategic Air Command had quite a few aircraft here. They had fighters, fighter bombers and bombers. I think the bombers were the Convairs around about that time. I'm not too au fait with American aircraft, but what I do know they had here was Thunderjets, F-84Es and Thunderstreaks. Oh, what a great name for a jet, Thunderjet. That tells you two things, doesn't it? It goes fast and brings a lot of noise with it. So they set up camp here and they expanded the camp. They built concrete bunkers, as I've mentioned, to store ammunition. And the camp itself was on a par with anything else we've got in the UK at the moment. So Lakenheath, I know that has sort of super expanded now. Is it Lakenheath or Mildenhall? Mildenhall, I think, is the one that's still there. I think Lakenheath has gone, but I could be wrong. And if anyone knows, then please tell me. And it was part of that expansion that helped RAF Manston continue after they'd left. A couple of events happened that are infamously attached to the United States Air Force here at Manston. The first one I want to talk about was on the 27th of April 1952. Captain Clifford Vincent Fogarty took off in his F-84E Thunderjet. I do love that name. On an exercise with whilst carrying live ammunition. He flew off out into the North Sea, which is to the east of the airport. Carried out some drills. I'm not too sure what time he took off. I couldn't find any reference to that. What I did find reference to, though, was that there was a mid-air collision. But I can't find anything else that confirms that. What I do know is that there was a fire on board the aircraft. So no doubt, at this time, Captain Fogarty is now thinking about getting his aircraft back to Manston. On his way over, he travelled over the town of Broadstairs, and I'll put a clip onto the Pathe newsreel, which was filmed, and it's very English clip tones, which tells about the disaster, and it describes how Captain Fogarty did all he could do to keep the aircraft from crashing into the town of Broadstairs. Sadly, though, it did crash into the small village of St Peters. It killed Mr. and Mrs. William Reed and Mrs. Ellen Collier, both from Broadstairs, and Captain Fogarty perished as well. The only stroke of luck that day was that the local parish church, the vicar, has decided to extend his sermon, as vicars do, which undoubtedly saved many lives. So that happened on the 27th of April 1952. Tragic air crash, and I will either find the link or try and edit in the clip into the to the video. The other event I want to talk about was 3 years later, 1955. Now I know these are only brief glimpses into the history of Manston, as it's been here since 1916. And as I showed in my first channel, you know, it wasn't unknown for air disasters here. Sorry, my first video. But on the 24th of August 1955, a US airman by the name of Nelson Green was due to be questioned over the theft of $120, £40, the equivalent of in 1955, and for the slashing of a girl's throat. I've been unable to find any other reference to that. It's funny though how they put the money before the slashing of the girl's throat. I found that a bit odd. He was due to be questioned by Captain Ada of the United States Air Police. The day before the event, so on the 23rd of August, Nelson Green had threatened other airmen, saying, tomorrow at 12 o'clock I'm coming to the cookhouse, or mess hall as he would have called it, and I'm going to start shooting you all. Well, they just laughed it off, joked about him. But at 9 o'clock the next morning, on the 24th, he went into the gun room, which was occupied by another airman. I'm assuming that the gun room is what we would call the armoury, or the arms coat. He started banging around. The other airman turned around and challenged him and said, "What are you doing? Stop making that racket." And he describes that Nelson Green pointed a pistol at him. Let's assume that was a Colt. Pointed a pistol at him, took a hatchet and started knocking off the padlock to the cage where other weapons were. And it wasn't till this other airman looked down and saw a note saying that Nelson Green dies today that he thought that there was something odd. That's after the gun's pointed at him and that this Nelson Green's trying to take the padlock off with a hatchet. He thought there was something odd. Nelson Green grabbed a .30 carbine, M1 carbine, and then started a rampage around the camp. He was looking for Captain Ada. That was his target. That's who he wanted to shoot. I'm guessing kill. On his way out, he was approached by another US soldier, a US Airman 3rd Class, Nelson Gresham. I must have liked the name Nelson. It's a great name, by the way. And he pleaded with him to stop and was met with a bullet and was fatally wounded. That was Green's first casualty of the day. He was to go on and shoot 10 other people. And throughout the morning, he wandered round the camp. It started at about 9 o'clock in the morning. It was over by 11:30. He wandered round the camp, indiscriminately firing his M1 carbine. Wounded a couple of people. And I will put the link up to the whole detailed story. This is in brief, really, just so you get a taste of for what it's about. He then managed to get out of the camp. He got a Master Sergeant McDaniels to drive him down to a place called Coffin Corner, which is towards Margate, which is sort of over my right shoulder. So he made his way down there. A policeman by the name of PC Brentridge, that could be wrong, but I think it was PC Brentridge. He'd been delayed by a broken shoelace. He was due to be on duty, stayed at home. Meanwhile, Green is arguing with the driver of McDaniel's brand new left-hand drive Ford Popular. McDaniel's managed to escape, got a lift from another driver who took him to Margate Police Station. PC Brent Bridges' wife said, "I've just seen a black man with a gun, US Airman, run past with a gun." He must have looked at her and thought, "Don't be daft." But later on answered a red police column. The light on top of this police column flashing red. I don't remember what they look like. It is a bit before my time. You might have to ask Let's Have 59. I think it's more about his time. And he answered the call and said, well, he's seen this guy in a car hopping down the road. So Green was obviously having problems driving the vehicle. The US Air Police are now mobilised and they're armed. And through, it doesn't really say, but through, I suppose, a collection of phone calls backwards and forwards, they managed to find that he's headed for the town of Broadstairs, down towards the beach. The policemen are closing in. They must have been quite close behind him with, but I don't know, with some kind of radio system they would have found. It doesn't really tell us how they did that. So they managed to block him in. He arrives at Broadstairs Harbour, which is a dead end, the road down there. And he pulls up outside the pub called the Tartar Frigate. There is a small car park there. And Fred Beecham, who was the car park attendant, wanders over to him and says, "Can't park there, mate." Green shouts to him words to the effect, "If they want me, they'll have to come and get me, or they'll never take me alive, copper." Words to that effect. He makes his way onto the beach. The US Air Police and 2 British bobbies, remember, who are unarmed. British policemen never carried guns, they never needed to. The word of law was enough. So they've got him now boxed in on the beach. He doesn't really know the area. His only escape, actually, because he's heading towards Joss Bay from Broadstairs Beach, which is north. His only escape then would have been up the 39 steps made famous by John Buchan. He probably wasn't even aware of those, and they're not the easiest things to find. So the police start closing in on him. They're ranging across the top of the cliffs. There were a few shots fired, but it was reported that there was a massive gunfight and Nelson Green's body was found riddled with bullets. Well, that's untrue. The coroner's report states that Nelson Green died from 2 gunshots. Sorry, it is a bit windy here. It's just wobbling the camera. 2 gunshots that were aimed at the heart. There was a 3rd shot that was in the arm that hadn't bled. So that was obviously after death. But he'd walked into the water, about 18 inches of water, and turned the gun on himself. And that ended that tragedy with the shooting of 10 people and the loss of 3 lives. I'll put their names up in the channel, and I'll try and put the link up as well. My editing skills aren't great at the moment. Second video in. This is my second video. I'd like to say a big thank you to Keith at Let's Have 59. And I've got to say as well that I was overwhelmed by the amount of comments I got yesterday saying they're looking forward to new material and that they like what they've seen. I know this has been a bit brief this morning, but it will give you a taste of more to come. I didn't. I sort of knocked this one up really, more for a little bit of thanks, just to say, you know, thank you for the nice words and the comments and the, you know, the support. I've gone from yesterday from 0 to over 500 subscribers in one day. Now I know a lot of those are from Let's Have 59. I really do appreciate it. Some of you might not like the channel, some of you might drift off, and you know, that is your choice. This isn't really my speciality. My speciality is battlefield tours. But there are other interesting history bits, especially down in Kent, and they're the bits I'll be covering going forward. I don't think there's any more air disasters. It just so happens I'm sat right on Manston, so I thought I'd bring those back to life. Once again, thank you. If you are enjoying it, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And I hope you've enjoyed this one this morning. Hope to see you again. Thanks very much.